So the designers have put in all this effort into building these custom curtain panels and skinning the building and spending a lot of time stitching the edges. And at some point, we probably want to know, well, just how many of these panels do we really have so that we can start doing cost estimates or other kind of quantity takeoffs. In this movie, we're going to look at reporting parameters. Reporting parameters are simply a parameter that instead of driving geometry and making the geometry change, it actually just reports on what it finds there and gives us back the value. If you set up the reporting parameters correctly, we can see them in schedules, which means we can very quickly pull out a quantity takeoff of everything we've got in our model. So I have a completed version of our curtain panels here. It's called reporting. If you zoom in a little bit, you can see that this one is finalized. All the edges have been stitched in nicely, and we've got our partial panels and our full panels. So if you watch the last few movies, this represents the completed version from that. What we're going to have to do is modify a few of these panels, add the reporting parameters to them, and then generate the schedule. Now, I also want to point out that we are in a Revit project file. And notice that these panels actually show through even though show mass is not turned on. So one of the really unique features of curtain panels in the massing environment is they actually are categorized as curtain panels. If I highlight over this, you'll see that it says it's a curtain panel. You don't need to have show mass on to see these. They remain visible and selectable in the model. Now let me scroll down. Here on the project browser, I'm going to go to families and notice that as a consequence of that, all of the curtain panels are actually listed here. For this movie, I'm just going to focus on the stone panels here, the exterior wall panel and the exterior wall panel edge. I'm going to right-click one of these and choose Edit, and that will open that panel in the Family Editor. Now, in order to make a reporting parameter work correctly, it has to be set up as a shared parameter. Now, shared parameters are a little bit more advanced, and if you're not quite familiar with shared parameters, or if you don't have this set up in your firm already, we do have this topic covered in the Family Editor course here on lynda.com. So I encourage you to jump over there and watch those lessons so that you can learn a little bit more about shared parameters. I am going to review the steps here a little bit, but I'm going to assume that a lot of the setup is already in place. What I want to do here is add my parameters, and the first thing I want to do is get this form out of my way. So I just tabbed in to select the form, and I'm going to select my sunglasses here and hide that element. That gives me a real easy way to select these reference lines. By now, you've heard me say on several occasions that it's really important that we dimension to the references, not the geometry. I'm going to use my align dimension and add a dimension from this reference line to this one, and another dimension from this reference line to this one. That's going to be my panel height, and that's going to be my panel length. I'll select the dimension and label it with a parameter. And if you look here, it can't be a family parameter because we want to report it in schedules. This is not a good option. That's why we have to use a shared parameter. I'm going to click select, and I already have a shared parameter file loaded, but if you don't have a shared parameter file loaded, I've actually provided one with the exercise files that you can load up. So the dialog would pop up, it would ask you where the file is, and you can just simply point to it, and it's called LDC shared parameters. But I've already got the parameters defined here, and I'm going to choose panel height, click OK. In order to be a reporting parameter, it's got to be instance, and then there's the reporting parameter checkbox. And it says right here what that does. It can be used to extract the value from a geometric condition and report it in a schedule. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We want this panel to tell us how tall it is. Click OK. Select the other dimension. Label it the same way. Add a parameter, shared parameter, select panel length, instance, and reporting. Got to remember to do that. There it is, and there it is. I'm going to reload this panel into the project and overwrite the existing version. And I'll just take a second while it regenerates. Scroll back down in the project browser, and I need to repeat that entire process for the edge panel as well. So let's right-click and choose Edit. Tab in and select my form and hide it. Go to Dimensions. This is going to be panel height, and this is going to be panel length. Select this one, label it with a parameter. Again, it's got to be shared parameter. Select. I'll use the same panel height parameter. Make it an instance and report. And then last time, add parameter, shared, panel length, instance, and report. You may notice that in there I had a couple others, so feel free if you want to add panel material and thickness as shared parameters as well. And then you could query not only the length and the height of the panels, but also what they're made out of and how thick they are. For this example, I just kept it to the 2 dimensions. So let's load it into project and then overwrite it again. And so now we're ready to go. At this point, if you tab in and select, actually I don't even need to tab, it's going right to it, but tab if it doesn't highlight, and select one of these panels, you should see right over here on the properties palette that there's the panel length and there's the panel height. Now that one's a full panel, so it's 12 by 4. This one is 7/8 by 4 because it's a partial panel. So the parameters are actually working and telling us the values of those objects. What I want to do is go to the View tab, go to Schedules, and add a Schedules and Quantities, and add a panel schedule. I'm going to choose New Schedule here, and I'm going to choose Curtain Panels. Click OK, and then add the fields that I want to include. So I'm going to choose the family and type and add it. You could add other fields if you're interested in these other fields, but I'm going to scroll down. Here's panel height. Here's panel length. Because they're shared parameters, they show up here in the schedule list as parameters we can add to the schedule. Let me add the count as well. I could click OK and I'll just get a big long flat list of panels, but what I want to do is jump over here to sorting and grouping, and I want to clean this up a little bit. If you're not familiar with schedules, again, we've covered schedules pretty extensively in the Essentials course at lynda.com, so you could check it out there. But I'm going to add the family and type as the first sort by and make that a header and put a blank line. That just adds a little breathing room. Then I'm going to sort by the panel height and the length. I want grand totals at the bottom, and I want to turn off the itemize every instance. Now doing that means that this count field will actually come into play. The count field will instead tell me how many of each panel I have instead of just having each one listed one after the other. Finally, on formatting, I'm going to take family and type, and I'm going to make that hidden. Because I made it a header over here, that's the only place I want to see it. And when I click OK, you'll now see the family and type name listed across here. You can widen these columns if necessary so that you can read things a little bit better. And all of the panel heights are listed here, all the panel lengths here, and here's the counts. Because I turned off itemize every instance, I now see the values listed over here. You've got the 2 different panels, the edge and the wall panel, listed there with their total quantities. Down here, the graffiti panels are not listing simply because those shared parameters haven't been added to those panels. So if you want to get your quantities for your graffiti panels as well, you just have to open up those families and repeat the steps we did earlier in the movie. But as you can see, the reporting parameter is an excellent way for you to go in and pull information out of your geometry and then report it on a schedule. The key thing that you need to remember there is to get it on a schedule, it has to be set up as a shared parameter. This is an excellent way to bridge from your design files over to doing your quantity takeoffs.